Good afternoon. This is lesson 107, and we are going to be working with using percents to name parts of a group. To name part of a group. Now, this is actually just a combination of a few different ideas that we've been working on, so there's nothing terribly new here. It's just you having to think it through because we've done it all before. But we're going to be using percents to name part of a group. So the first thing that we have to remember is that percents are always going to be written as a percent, but they are actually out of 100. That's what the word percent means, would mean out of 100. So with that in mind, let's take a look at using percents to name. Now, if I said 1 out of 100 kids got chickenpox in our school, you would be able to tell me with probably very little thought at all that means that 1% of the entire 100% of our school had chickenpox, because you know that that's 1 out of 100. That is what the 1% is saying 1 out of 100. Now, when we are doing this today, we're going to take that same idea, except we're not going to be giving you a fraction that is automatically out of 100. Which means you have to make it into a fraction out of 100. So if I said, okay, we said 1 out of 100 had chickenpox, then we'll say 1/2 of the students had, measles. So if 1/2 of the students have measles, well, we can't just put 1/2%, because we're right here, we're not out of 100, we're only out of 2. 1/2 is 1 out of 2. What we're going to have to do is we have to make that into something over 100. This is what I meant when I said this is nothing new. We have done this over and over again. How did you get from the 2 to the 100? Well, remember, you can either multiply or divide. In this case, you had to multiply. So you multiplied times 50. And what you do to the bottom, you hopefully finished that thought for me, which is do to the top. And so we're going to up here multiply also by 50. So then we would say 1/2 equals 50 over 100, which means 50% of the students had, I don't know, what was it, mumps? Well, whatever it is, that's a whole lot more than the 1%. But look at the fractions that we began with. Here we had 1 out of 100. Here we had 1 out of 2. Now that's what I mean by using percents to name part of a group. You just have to make sure it's always out of 100. So if I say 4/5 of the class was out sick today. Well, you know we're wanting to get to a percent. 4/5, that's not percentable. So we know that to get a percent, we have to make it over 100. How did I get from 5 to 100? Hopefully you said pretty quickly, well, 5 times 20 is 100. So if I times 20 on the bottom, I times 20 on the top, and I get an 80. 80 over 100 means 80% of the class was out sick. So 4/5 is 80%. So are you seeing how this works? It's always just when you are using it, you are making sure you're over 100. pretty simple. We're going to take it a step farther and look at it, what if it's more than 100? And then a step even further, what if it doesn't go evenly into 100? Now, like your book gives an example, there were 400 beads in all, but 60 of them were red. What percent were red? Well, if there were 400 beads total and 60 of them were red, what percent was red? Well, I can't do that because here the 400 is not equal to 100. So here I have to do the exact same thing. I still need to get it over 100. In this case, how did I get from the 400 to the 100? Did I multiply? Hopefully you said, of course not, Mrs. Gomes. You divided by 4. 400 divided by 4 is 100, so that means up here I need to divide by 4 as well. So if you need to do the math out, that would be 60 divided by 4 is 1, 2, 5, 15. So our answer is 15%. We're red. So again, it's really pretty easy. You always just have to end up with a fraction over 100. Any questions with that? Make sure you make a little note of it or put a little question mark because we can talk about that tomorrow. Now, I do want to do one step with you because sometimes it's not going to come evenly from your starting number into 100. Now, with these, I will tell you honestly, sometimes it's just easier to memorize them. Like these two that I'm going to show you today, I have memorized, just because I don't want to always do out this math. It's easier to memorize your basic, like 1/4 is 25%, 1/2 is 50%, 3/4 is 75%. It's easier to memorize them than to actually have to think out the math. But I want to be able to show you how to do the math just in case you have to. If I say 1/3 of the donuts were chocolate, well, to find the percent that were chocolate, you have to get that over 100. But herein lies the problem. 3 does not go evenly into 100. So if I say 100 divided by 3, I get 33 1/3. That's because I have it memorized. If you do out the math, you'll get 33 1/3 also. Now that means if I multiply 3 times 33 1/3, I will get 100. So up here, I have to multiply times 33 1/3. So this is going to blow some of your minds. Whoops, sorry, that should be a 3. I have a fraction in a fraction. Yes, it only works on this way until you get into advanced math. But your answer is 33 1/3%. So 1/3 equals 33 1/3%. Now, let me show you once more, taking that another step further. Another one that's good to have memorized is 2/3. But see, it's going to work the exact same way, except it would be, that this is times 33 1/3 here, hopefully if you remembered that. So to find the percent, I went 33 1/3 times here, times 33 1/3 up here is 66 2/3. So it equals 66 2/3%. See, it's not really that difficult, and that's why with something like this, it's just easier to have the thirds memorized. The other numbers you can pretty much quick figure out. The thirds are a little bit harder. When you get to numbers like if it said 1/7 of the class was tardy, well, you might have to do the math. This is so you know how to do the math. All right, so you know that you would divide here. How many times does 3 go into 100? 3 into 100. And then you use that to get your multiplication. Then what you multiply down here, you multiply what you do on the bottom, you do on the top. And that's it. So that's today's finding the percentage, the name in percents for a group. Nothing new, nothing difficult. Always remember, though, it has to be over 100 for it to be a percent. Hope you have a wonderful evening, and I will see you tomorrow.